Admit. Verb. Verb forms. Present simple. I, you, we, they admit. He, she, it admits. Past simple. Admitted. Past participle. Admitted. ing form. Admitting. Accept truth. 1. Intransitive. Transitive, to agree. Often unwillingly, that something is true. Synonym. Confess. It was a stupid thing to do, I admit. Speech. I'm very nervous, she admitted reluctantly. Admit to something. Example. Don't be afraid to admit to your mistakes. Admit to doing something. Example. She admits to being strict with her children. Admit something. Examples. He admitted all his mistakes. She stubbornly refuses to admit the truth. Why don't you just admit defeat, recognize that you cannot do something, and let someone else try? I hate to admit it, but I think he is right. Admit it. You were terrified. I'm almost ashamed to admit it, but I watched this show. Admit that. Examples. They freely admit that they still have a lot to learn. You must admit that it all sounds very strange. She readily admits mistakes were made. Admit to somebody that. Example. I couldn't admit to my parents that I was finding the course difficult. Be admitted that. Example. It was generally admitted that the government had acted too quickly. Be admitted to be, have something. Example. The appointment is now generally admitted to have been a mistake. Extra examples. He admitted to feeling a bit tired. He freely admitted that he had taken bribes. He had caused her more pain than she cared to admit. He was honest enough to admit his mistake in the end. I must admit that the results were disappointing. I was scared and I don't mind admitting it. In the end he'd done a good job, Carol admitted grudgingly. She dared not admit her fear. She would be the first to admit that she is very difficult to work with. Some admit privately that unemployment could continue to rise. Accept blame. 2. Intransitive. Transitive, to say that you have done something wrong or illegal. Synonym. Confess. Admit to something. Example. He refused to admit to the other charges. Admit to doing something. Example. She admitted to having stolen the car. Admit something. Examples. She admitted theft. He refused to admit his guilt. The hospital has admitted liability for the accident. Admit doing something. Example. She admitted having driven the car without insurance. Synonyms. Admit. Acknowledge. Recognize. Concede. Confess. These words all mean to agree, often unwillingly, that something is true. Admit to agree, often unwillingly, that something is true. Example. It was a stupid thing to do, I admit. Acknowledge, rather formal, to accept that something exists, is true or has happened. Example. She refuses to acknowledge the need for reform. Recognize. To admit or be aware that something exists or is true. Example. They recognize the need to take the problem seriously. Concede, rather formal, to admit, often unwillingly, that something is true or logical. Example. He was forced to concede that there might be difficulties. Admit or concede. When somebody admits something, they are usually agreeing that something that is generally considered bad or wrong is true or has happened, especially when it relates to their own actions. When somebody concedes something, they are usually accepting, unwillingly, that a particular fact or statement is true or logical. Confess, rather formal, to admit something that you feel ashamed or embarrassed about. To admit, especially formally or to the police, that you have done something wrong or illegal. Examples. She was reluctant to confess her ignorance. He confessed to the murder. Patterns. To admit, acknowledge, recognize, concede, confess that. To admit, confess to something. To admit, concede, confess something to somebody. To admit, acknowledge, recognize the truth. To admit, confess your mistakes, ignorance. Allow to enter, join. 3. Transitive, formal, to allow somebody, something to enter a place. Admit somebody, something. Example. Each ticket admits one adult. Admit somebody, something to, into something. Examples. You will not be admitted to the theater after the performance has started. The narrow windows admit little light into the room. 4. Transitive, formal, to allow somebody to become a member of a club, a school or an organization. Admit somebody. Example. The society admits all U.S. citizens over 21. Admit somebody into something. Example. Women were only admitted into the club last year. To hospital. 5. Transitive, often passive, formal, to take somebody to a hospital or other institution where they can receive special care. Be admitted to something. Example. 2 crash victims were admitted to the local hospital. Evidence. 6. Transitive, formal, to accept that evidence is legally valid and can be presented in court. Example. Judge Nielsen refused to admit the evidence because it had been illegally obtained. Word origin. Late Middle English, from Latin admittere, from ad, to, plus mittere, send. Phrasal verbs. Admit of something. Formal, to show that something is possible or likely as a solution, an explanation, etc.